And I think we are live. Welcome everyone to the AWS Dev Day Security Edition Q&A with experts, with our subject matter experts from today's presentations. And we have another guest on the show. I'm happy that you are all here. I hope you enjoyed today's sessions. I hope you learned a little bit. And if you have any questions, I'll put that up right here. Just please ask your questions in the chat, and our experts will answer them as good as they can. Speaking of the experts, the first person I have here is Schart. Luai, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Dennis? It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great. You were the last session today, which got just wrapped up a few minutes ago. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do at AWS? Where do you come from? What's your background?
Sure. So my name is Schart, and I'm a security specialist solutions architect here at AWS. From the last 6 months, I've been based in Dubai. Previously, I started 2.5 years ago in Australia. So I'm part of the EMEA region now. I come from a strong background of infrastructure and virtualization, and I've kind of worked in multiple organizations doing that, and did a lot of work with containers and automation, which led me to this role.
Nice, quite interesting. Great to have you. So the next person on the call is Margo. Margo Cronin, security specialist SA. Hi, Margo. How are you?
Hey there, Dennis.
Hey.
Yeah, so my name is Margo. I'm a solutions architect, security specialist based out of the Swiss AWS office in Switzerland. I'm actually Irish by nationality, and my career, I have a strong background in FSI, and Switzerland being quite heavily focused in finance and banking and insurance. I typically deal with a lot of data residency and data sovereignty style topics.
Yeah, which is quite interesting. FSI stands for Financial Services Industry.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Margie, today you presented together with Samuel Weymouth. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did indeed, Dennis. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Yeah, did you bring the very unethical hacker or no?
Oh, no. We're sticking with on-message stuff at the moment, thank you.
All right, great.
Yeah,
great to
don't
have
want to get
you.
in trouble with the boss.
Great to have you, Samuel. Why don't you introduce yourself real quick?
Well, my name is Samuel Weymouth. I'm a specialist solution architect in security and compliance for the EMEA region. I'm originally from New Zealand, but I'm currently based in London. And I've been in the IT industry since the early 90s, so kind of growing up with the internet.
Oh, yeah. Sounds familiar to me. Welcome. Great to have you. And the next person on the call is Nelly Kassem, security specialist solutions architect at AWS. Nelly, how are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm good.
I'm good as well. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Nelly. I'm a part of the security specialist solution architect team that's covering EMEA. I joined AWS initially as a part of professional services. So this is more of a consulting area of AWS. I'm specialized in security, but I have I would say, an appetite for AppSec. My background, as in before AWS, was doing AppSec so AppSec as in application security for industrial companies, banks sometimes, and I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you. I can see we have already the first questions coming in. I'll just run through the introductions real quick, and then we will jump right into the questions that we have. It's going to be quite crowded today. We have Veselin here, security architect. Veselin, how are you?
Hi, Dennis. How are you?
I'm great. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Veselin, based in Berlin, originally coming from Bulgaria. So my background is in network and application security, working for professional services as a security architect, and really happy to be here. I'm really thrilled and waiting for your questions.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And the last person on the panel is Michael Füllbier. Michael, how are you?
Hi, I'm very good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Sure. So I'm Michael from southern Germany near Stuttgart. I'm a security consultant in AWS Professional Services, and my background is in penetration testing, web applications mainly, and mobile applications.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a topic that I always wanted to get into. It sounds exciting, but probably it's a lot of work as well, I guess, isn't it? All right, so welcome all. Thank you for being here. Welcome also to your to the viewers. This is the AWS Dev Day Security Edition, live security expert Q&A. Please ask all your questions live in the comments on Twitch or on YouTube, wherever you are, and our experts will try and answer them as good as they can. Speaking of which, we actually do have an answer here. Is the code for the example apps from the various sessions available? And this is a question to all of you, because some of you did demos and example apps. Is there anything online where we can point the viewers to?
For my session, yes, it's available on a GitHub repo, and I can share that with you, so you can share it with the attendees as well.
Yeah, that would be great. If you could just give me the URL, and I'll put it in the chat below.
Just speaking for our session with Margo, same there. You'll see there's a URL is in the presentation, but I'll send you the link shortly.
Okay, that's great. Great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And please go ahead.
For my session, unfortunately, we cannot share the code at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, that's. I mean, some of the sessions are very in depth, and you need an environment having been set up already to be able to work with it, to do what was in the demos. And I think Michael, yours specifically was with an Elastic Beanstalk environment. Exactly. I just got the link from Luai. Give me a second. I'll put it in the chat, and as Sam just said, his link is in the presentation, and everybody who watched the presentations today, if any of you didn't, I can post that link. Give me a second, because all the material will be available on demand, so you can still register to this event. I'll put it here. To see the presentations from today, if you weren't able. And I just got the link from Sam as well for his session. So here we go. That's on GitHub as well. Awesome. So I'm going through the questions now. This is an interesting question that we get quite often: how to get free learnings from AWS to gain security certification. Any Power Hour sessions, please let us know. So there's one thing. If you go to aws.training, we have hundreds of video sessions that you can take on demand, many of which are free of charge, and many of which are on the topic of security as well. So if you go to aws.training, that is our training portal where you can find a lot of material.
And on top of that, Dennis, as well, we do have a security ramp-up guide. I've sent you the link as well. It's actually curated sessions specifically geared around security that people can go through, and all the content is free as well.
I'll put it in the chat. Here we go, security ramp-up guide. And also, we do have a number of workshops, security workshops.
The security workshops are really useful because they follow various themes, such as you might want to do data protection or maybe incident response. So there's quite a lot of material in there as well. Again, it's all free, and you can run it in your own account, or even get a security architect or your solution architect to come and run a workshop with you on site. Well, when we can visit you on site, that is. Probably online for now.
Yeah. I did the certification back in the day when it was still in a test center where I had to go to a test center and do everything in person. Here we have a question. Orcam256 asks about attribute-based access control, which was the first session of the day. Unfortunately, the speaker isn't here, but we have a number of security experts here. I'm sure somebody can answer this. Tag-based policies are generally dealing with resources that already exist. How can I provide possibility to create resources? Luai, is that something that you can talk about?
Absolutely. So with attribute-based access control, you have the ability to do that based on resources that are existing or when you're creating resources. So a really good example is, let's say you have a tag as part of your policy that says, I need to have a department value. And what you can do is a matching statement that matches your attribute as a user to the tag of the resource that you are creating. A really good example to do this is with Secrets Manager, for example. If you try to create a resource based on an ABAC policy where you don't have a tag associated with the resource, the creation will fail. So that's definitely possible to do that when you're creating resources, not just when you're accessing existing ones as well.
Cool.
Hopefully
I hope that answers the I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, please go ahead and specify. We do have another question here. Is there a way to embed an identity certificate in a Lambda function? So if the certificate is revoked or expires, that the Lambda function cannot run or be executed. Is the question clear to everyone? Who would like to take a stab at it?
I'll certainly begin, and I might hand over then to somebody who might have more serverless experience. But the notion of policies expiring isn't really isn't really something that is available. So the idea that you have the policy associated to the Lambda function, but then the policy expires, isn't configured like that. What you could do, though, however, is automate the removal of the policy. So if you're doing automation in your environments, you've noticed an anomaly and you want to revoke the privileges of someone, you've got a bad actor and you're saying, okay, this person has too much permissive rights and we want to lock that down. You can automate that and update the policy. The policy is then associated to the Lambda function under permissions. You can see it there. And will become effective immediately. So I don't know if I've answered your question correctly there, or maybe one of my team members might see what you're asking.
I could probably add something to that as well. I think there isn't a certificate as such for when your Lambda function is running. It runs on a Linux container that's provisioned, or server that's provisioned by us, and then executes in that runtime environment, we'll call it. It's not actually a container. The permissions that the Lambda function will have to rest of your AWS resources are based upon the policy, as Margo says. You could add potentially conditions to that policy that might validate date and time, for example, so that it's not able to access certain permissions outside of those conditions, for example. So that's one approach you could take, but the idea of a certificate as such, we don't really have in Lambda today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you very much for the question. Just real quick, hi everyone who's come on the show recently. We are running the live Q&A for today's AWS Dev Day Security Edition, and we have a ton of AWS security experts on the call today. And please, if you have any questions regarding security, identity, compliance on AWS or in the cloud in general, let us know and we will answer them. We do have a question here by CBRG Chris. Greetings, I'm studying cybersecurity, which is great in itself. If I want to use AWS services for scanning or other things to use Kali Linux on AWS, do I have to ask for some kind of permission or just use the services?
I can have a go at this one if you like. There's I've just included a link in which Dennis will post in a minute. We have quite strict policy on what you are and are not allowed to run penetration tests against, because clearly you want to be able to test your applications, your workloads, but we don't want you running pen tests against AWS service endpoints because they have to be there for lots of customers, okay? So that link gives you the right guidance as to what things you can and can't pen test, and when in doubt, don't pen test against it. And the other thing to consider, Kali Linux, if you're looking at doing some security research potentially, you can actually get Kali Linux images on the AWS marketplace. So they are available there, and you can run up AMI instances within your VPCs and subnets.
I'm looking. I just messed up one of the links. I'm sorry. I reposted it. I had it duplicated, so please bear with me. Yeah, and that's a great question. Thank you, ST Schiff. A more relaxed question. Are recordings of the webinars earlier available somewhere? Some of the presentations were really great, and I would love to share them with my team. So yes, the presentations are available. Removed myself from the screen accidentally. So the links are available. Not the links, the videos are available. If you registered for the event, you will get a link pointing to the videos where you can watch them on demand. And you can still, if you haven't done so, you can still register for the event. And I will post the link real quick again. To get access to the on-demand sessions if you weren't able to watch them during the day. Let me see. Here we go. Here's the link again. I hope that does answer your question. Okay, cool. Thanks. So if you have any other questions, you're very welcome, ST Schiff. If you have any other questions, just let us know in the chat. While we're waiting for this, I'm going through, because we had some questions by the audience during the day, during the sessions. Let me see. I think I do have something for Veselin. Let me see. I'll put it up here. Just real quick. Struggling with technology. So if you remember Veselin's talk, Veselin, I'll put that here. Veselin talked about doing code scans, vulnerability assessments, things like that as part of the delivery pipeline. Is that right? And one of in the audience asked about the approaches that you talked about: in-band approach, out-of-band approach. Which of these work with Jenkins?
Yeah, thank you for this question. It's a very nice question. First, the patterns, you can use all of them and not dependent on which platform you are using, and Jenkins is a great tool. One of the benefits of Jenkins is coming out of the box with support of different languages. And so you have a lot of plugins that will enable you to integrate with a lot of tools like OWASP, dependency checker, and etc. And you will receive also very nice reports. So I would first recommend you, if you are using Jenkins, have a look at the available plugins, and then you can select the plugins that you want to use. These plugins are also coming with capabilities of automatically recognizing the different repo structures if you're using Java or Maven or Gridle, and they will integrate and pull the sources automatically. So you can use, again, all the patterns you would like, but have a look at the already existing Jenkins plugins for the integration. And if not, then go in building your own on the top of it. I hope this answers your question.
Great, thank you so much. I don't know if the one asking the question is here in the audience. It was one from the session itself. We have a few more questions in the chat. This is attribute-based access control again. Is it by PD Arlington 92? Thank you for the question. Is it possible to use attribute-based access control with non-user identities? For example, system actors such as EC2 instances and ECS containers. Could I tag these and reference these in policies? Who would like to take a stab at that? Luai, what about you?
I'll take it. Yeah, I was just seeing if anyone else is interested. So ABAC today works with identity-based policies. What you're referring to is basically resource-based policies. So no, I cannot attach an ABAC resource-based policy to an EC2 instance, for example. That's not going to work. And the reason behind that is that ABAC is all dependent on a user identity, right? So the idea behind it is that I'm getting attributes from a user and I'm matching that to a specific resource. So the example that you're asking, that is not going to work today.
Okay, and while we're at it, we
But,
had another.
just kind of another point, like the other part of the
Sure.
question is that could I tag and reference decent policies? Absolutely. So you can start saying EC2 instances, for example, can access an RDS instance that has a specific tag to it, but it's not a dynamic based policy. You have to actually specify the tag and the value associated with it.
Okay, great. I hope that answers the question. We have another question in this regard. Can I use this tagging strategy with other federating services, like, for instance, Microsoft Active Directory?
I'll continue then, I guess.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Absolutely. So Cognito is the last identity service that we've released that supports ABAC. You can support, we can use attribute-based access control with identity and access management in AWS, so AWS IAM. And whether you're using federation from a SAML or an OIDC perspective, or Microsoft Active Directory from an authentication side of things, you can leverage ABAC as well. We also do have another service called AWS Single Sign-On that also enables you to leverage attribute-based access control.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for everyone who just signed on, welcome to the AWS Dev Day Security Expert Q&A. We had a whole day full of sessions around security, very in-depth sessions around security on Amazon Web Services. And we have a ton of experts here on the call today. So if you have any questions whatsoever regarding AWS security, please, I'm sorry, please ask them in the chat. Here's a new question by RCA Chip. I'm probably butchering all the names. I'm really sorry. A more general questions. I come from a company where almost all Linux servers are self-hosted. Would you consider moving everything to AWS services a good idea from a security standpoint, even though it might come at an additional cost? That is a great question, and I'm sure everybody on the call here has an opinion regarding that. Who would like to take that?
Probably I can start. If you allow me, then my colleagues can support me, because it's a very interesting and we are thrilled to answer this. It's a good idea because I'll put probably one argument. You gain a full visibility and automation around your resources. If you have it on site, probably there are always some resources which you probably don't know, and you need to have some sort of a database which resources you have. Moving them to AWS, then you have a full visibility of resources that you are deployed, and you can build on automation on the top of it very easily. So they are not something like a hidden resources which are deployed only for testing purposes and forgotten somewhere in the corner. You always have a full visibility, and with automation, you can really improve the security of your company. That's my first initial thought on it.
Yeah, thank you. Nelly, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. What I would say is the short answer is it all depends on your risk. We're all security professionals, so we're big on risk, right? It all depends on the shared response. Like, if you're familiar with our shared responsibility model, which in two senses, we are responsible for everything that is in the cloud. So the security of the cloud is us. The security that the stuff that you build in the cloud is you, right? So if the risk for your company resides on which side of the shared responsibility model, it will then explain to you, because I see the comment was not a small additional cost, right? So this is debatable. We could debate on this all day long, but because we will go into the full model of how are you gonna calculate your cost? What are you taking into account, etc., etc. But to avoid the debate, it all depends on where is that risk. If it's usually, and the answer should be something like usually between both, like a little bit here and a little bit there. But based on quantifying your risk, you'll be able to see if moving to the cloud will help you accelerate. And of course, as Veselin says, automation and visibility will help you a long way with all of the pillars of security, like whether it's IAM, whether it's incident response or data protection. There are things that you get with the cloud automatically off the bat that is really, really difficult to have, if not impossible, on-prem. Things like data protection, the level of data protection that you'll get when you're using the cloud is not something that you're going to be able to easily have, or honestly at all have, on-prem. So you should take those into consideration. That's kind of my 2 cents on this.
Great.
I would add one small
please, Margo.
comment to that great answer from Nelly, and that is our professional services group actually have run these migration application programs where they come in and assess your environments and identify what could be lift and shift versus what should be replatformed versus what can be re-architected for the cloud. That balance, by the way, is quite key when it comes to that cost question, which was brought up in the chat channel there, versus what is born in the cloud. And then that takes your application landscape and breaks it down accordingly, approaching this kind of exercise in quite a structured manner. They have an awful lot of experience doing that, and it's how I would approach it.
I can add something too, if you like.
Yeah, I knew that everybody. I would have wondered if that's not something that everybody's passionate about.
Yeah, it's it's sometimes it's pretty hard to be passionate about reading service terms and conditions and data processing addendums and all that stuff. But when you're doing your due diligence before you even begin your cloud journey, and you think about your business, the data you hold, and whether you need to be able to trust your providers, right? So our strong recommendation, take a look at the service terms and conditions. Yes, it's a bit dull to read sometimes, but pay careful attention to things like the data processing addendum, particularly section 3. Make sure you're comfortable with the wording. Make sure your legal team's comfortable with the wording as well. And just think about, the type of data you're planning on storing and what sort of controls you need, technical controls and process controls, to be comfortable putting that data in cloud.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you so much, Sam. I do have another question here from an attendee during the day, and this is probably towards Michael, because it relates to Elastic Beanstalk. Can we pass a custom AMI, which is an Amazon machine image, basically an image for a VM, for an EC2 instance, which is the VM on AWS, in .eb extensions, and that can be used to launch EC2 instance? Whether AMIs can be checked for security risks before deploying into EB environment. Can you answer that question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. If you remember in my talk, I had a slide about precedence in Elastic Beanstalk, which is the order in which Elastic Beanstalk takes your configurations. And the top priority is the configuration which you set up in the initial deployment of your Elastic Beanstalk. So when you launch your Beanstalk environment and you set up your AMI ID, then this cannot be overwritten by EB extensions afterwards. So if you want to control what kind of AMI is running on your environments, you need to specify this AMI during your deployment command.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answers the question. And I hope
I could put something else in there, actually,
if
just quickly, is one thing you could consider also is looking at the AMIs in the marketplace for ones that are already security hardened. There are a variety of ones from the Center of Internet Security, for example, that potentially you may use with Elastic Beanstalk, and they come pre-hardened against well-known best practices and security standards. So it's another thought as well.
Great, thanks for that point. And another question that we had during the day is maybe, Margo, this is something for you as an InfoSec looking into this area right now. I would love an article or guidance on the kind of metrics we can use both at an operational and executive level.
Yeah, so I think this came up in the context of our session today, and there's an awful lot of metrics that you can gather from an operational perspective that might include the number of deployments you're doing per day. If you're doing hundreds or thousands of deployments, if you take something like Amazon.com, you can imagine the number of deployments that they do, for example. Also, maybe the number of rollbacks that you do, canary testing, the number of pushes you're doing out per month into your mainline branches. And generally what we look for at Amazon is the jitter on our own operational metrics charts, and when those jitters go outside acceptable ranges. So those are the tools that you would have in place to support that. And if you look at Werner Vogel's speech from reInvent 2021, Keynote 2020, you can consider, you can see more on this as well. Metrics then that you would present to your development teams and to your operations teams, your DevSecOps teams, would be different maybe than to metrics that you would be presenting to your executive teams, who would be more interested maybe in general trends than, for example, how many deployments you've done live a day in production. And so we do have services as well that actually are of interest, I think, to those teams, like Audit Manager, for example, or Guard Duty Findings as well, which amalgamates findings from across all of your environments. So first of all, I think consider who your customer is internally. Is it your ops teams, DevOps teams, DevSecOps teams? And secondly, then, if it's executive level. And if it's executive level, then it's often more around trends. So maybe cybersecurity, for example, that they might be interested in. Sam, did I hear you there?
Yeah, we heard Sam typing. You probably
Oh, sorry.
say something as well.
I'm also sort of thinking that the kind of things executives are particularly interested in is what their audit position is. If you're in any company that's a part of a regulated industry or heavily governed industry, there will be audit metrics such as PCI DSS or ISO 27000 series, for example, that consider what is your position, how good are you at certain things, and at executive level, they're the ones who are responsible, to their stakeholders and their customers for making sure those audit controls are in a fit state. So if you're thinking about it from working backwards from a customer, and your customer's your own senior leadership, then consider the audit metrics as a pretty good starting point of something you want to monitor and be able to report to them on a regular basis.
That's great. And
I'd add one
yes,
more
please.
thing to all of this, which is, now so many of our services and so many third-party tools as well, great ones out there in the market, generate metrics around observability. But what are you doing then based on those metrics? What have you automated as a result of certain events coming in? What learning are you pushing out into your wider teams so that maybe certain things can be avoided in the future? I think something customers experience is not having trouble generating metrics, but maybe identifying what to do with those metrics. And that's something that I think is well worth spending time on as teams.
Dennis, there's something I'd like to add. We do have an article in our solutions builder that's centered around Amazon, not AWS. And it talks a little bit about dashboards and operational visibility on a high level and on a low level. It doesn't actually give you the exact metrics that you need to be looking for, but it gives you a lot of guidance in terms of what level of visibility you want to show to what teams. I think that would be a really, really good starting point for people to kind of get a good understanding of what type of dashboards would fit what type of persona within your organization as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I put the link in the comment in the chat. So we have one last question here. Is AWS Quickset does AWS Quickset only use AWS managed keys for encryption? Nelly, do you want to take that? You're on mute. Give me a second. I'll unmute you. Oh, I can't.
Sorry. I just did. Thank you so much. Sorry. So yeah, all keys associated with Embedding Quickset are managed by AWS. I kind of put a link that has all of the information around this. So I hope you'll be able to share it.
Yes, I'll give me a second. Give me a second. I will share the link in the chat as well. So, unfortunately, there is another show scheduled for right now on the Twitch, on the official AWS Twitch channel. So I will have to cut it off. I think it was a great session. It was an awesome day. And thank you all so much for your presentations, for being on this panel. And I'm sure we will have another AWS Dev Day Security Edition quite soon, probably next year, maybe even in person, which would be great.
Wow.
Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to the audience. It was great to have you. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.